Welcome to A Healthy Curiosity, the podcast that explores what it takes to be well in a busy world with self-care strategies from Chinese medicine. I'm your host, Brody Welch, here to support you on your journey of health, happiness, and personal evolution. If you've been tuning into the Olympics in Rio this week, no doubt you've noticed the large purple hickey marks on Michael Phelps and a number of the other Olympic swimmers and gymnasts from around the world. A lot of people are wondering what these marks are, and I just had to record this episode on the fly to explain that they're from cupping. Cupping has been part of Chinese medicine for literally thousands of years. And it's something that we employ for a wide variety of reasons, especially conditions that involve some element of stagnant blood or stagnating fluids in the body. So let's just jump into the Chinese medicine worldview for a moment, where energy always needs to be moving in the body. And when it gets stuck, that's when problems like pain arise. So say you have put in a killer workout at the gym. The next day or the day after that even, you're still feeling sore and stiff. What has likely happened is that you have traumatized those tissues. You've basically you've injured muscle fibers in a very small way, and your body's responding with inflammation to heal the tissue. So the body is trying to get blood and fluids to this overworked area to repair the tissue and get you feeling better and back to normal. And it's almost like there's a traffic jam or a log jam in the river. And with acupuncture, we can open that up, but cupping is more like dredging that whole area, really moving a lot of blood and a lot of fluids to increase the circulation to that local area. So for things like chronically tight muscles, from sitting at a desk, for example, we get that chronically tight neck and shoulders, and the fascia, that special kind of tissue that wraps around every single muscle fiber, every single muscle belly, every single nerve. It basically protects all the tissues in the body. The fascia can get sticky. And muscles can stick together. And so a lot of times when you're feeling those knots in your shoulders, it can be, or just kind of like an overall density in the tissue just below the skin, you're feeling tight fascia. And the thing with fascia is that it doesn't respond to fast moving pressure or really even like you can massage it, but it might just come back the next day. Fascia responds to slow and steady and sustained pressure, which cupping can provide in a really unique way. It's kind of like a deep massage in reverse. So basically the practitioner creates a little suction, a little vacuum inside the cup and puts it down on the skin, and it creates that pulling action from the inside out and it sort of fluffs up the tissue to decompress the fascia to increase blood flow to the local area. So cupping's great as an anti-inflammatory. It's great to increase the flow of qi and blood to an area. So that could be why it's effective for fertility, to cup the lower back to get the blood moving, or for painful periods. It's great for coughs and like any sort of chest congestion. It can really open things up. Some studies have shown it to be effective in reducing the toxic load from allergies or from viruses. That viral load will actually drop in response to cupping or Gua Sha. Gua Sha being the scraping technique without the suction. And it can be profoundly relaxing. So in Chinese medicine, we use blood kind of along acupuncture meridians, but also on the zones that are kind of like, if the meridians are these little like line drawings, then the zones would be a wider swath of the body. And so opening that area up with cups a lot of times makes the needles all that much more effective. So really great to use it in conjunction with acupuncture. And it is really great. I absolutely love it. And of course, it leaves these telltale marks, a sign that you have been cupped, which can range from a light pink. It can look kind of like road burn if the cups have been moved around, or they can be more like distinct circles that vary from kind of a red to a deep purple. And they're really more like hickeys than like bruises. A lot of times people don't really even know that they're there after treatment, but when they get undressed in a locker room or at a pool or something, people are shocked and assume that it hurts. I actually have forms in my office that I send home with my pediatric patients assuring people that the child has not been abused, but rather that they've undergone this treatment known as cupping. And because, it can look really scary, but usually the area feels much more open, relaxed, and mobile after a treatment. The kinds of things that cupping is good for treating include both chronic and acute pain, tight muscles, joint mobilization, freeing up tissue so that an area can move more freely, so that we can breathe more freely, so allergies, asthma, bronchitis, or any sort of congestive cough, any condition of blood stasis that might result in painful periods or infertility, we would cup the lower back. Even constipation, cupping on the abdomen can be super helpful. So now you know a little bit about what is leaving those marks on your favorite Olympic athletes. And if you want to dig a little deeper into this topic, listen on to a conversation that I had with my colleague Joe Mosius about how we actually employ cupping in a clinical setting. So feel free to listen for another few minutes as the conversation continues. Today, my colleague Joe Mosius and I are going to talk about cupping and Gua Sha, these modalities that we use in the acupuncture clinic that can leave the body looking a little bit like you got into a bar fight with an octopus or you got massive road burn all over yourself. Want to talk about it?
Yeah, sounds good.
So can you, first of all, do you use cupping much in your practice, Joe?
I do. Probably not as much as acupuncture, but I definitely do like cupping for certain conditions.
What conditions?
Some things that I've found it works really well for are like chest colds. Mm-hmm. Or if somebody feels like they're starting to come down with a cold, doing a flash cupping on the back is very beneficial for releasing any pathogens that may be stuck in the chest area, the back.
Okay, so what's flash cupping and what do you mean by a pathogen?
Okay, good question. Pathogen is any type of thing. We would call it like cold or flu.
Yeah, so somebody comes in, they've got a cough, their chest is congested, they don't feel like they can breathe normally, or they're hacking up phlegm, and we're going to want to decrease the stagnation in the chest by opening it up. And we actually don't necessarily cup the chest directly, right? We often will cup the back. Mm-hmm. And so what can you describe that process?
Sure. So I get about 3 cups ready. Mm-hmm. So cupping works by creating a vacuum. So there's fire involved.
And the cups themselves, are these like cups that you drink out of, or like what are we imagining here?
You could drink out of them, but I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah.
These are, it's a very thick glass that's smooth and rounded on the surface that's going to contact the body. Mm-hmm. So it's not any hard edges or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think of them as kind of like bulbs.
Yeah, bulbs.
Like they're very bulbous and round, and so usually I'll put down some oil on the person's back so that if I need to move the cup, it slides gracefully across the skin. And then, we create a vacuum inside the cup by, usually I will take a locking tweezer and I'll soak a cotton ball in alcohol and light it on fire. And the fire does not create heat so much as it just burns up the oxygen inside the cup and creates a vacuum so that when we put the cup down on the skin, that's sort of the upper layer of superficial tissue, the skin and the fascia gets sucked up into the cup a little bit, and it feels kind of like a deep massage in reverse.
Yeah, that's a great way of describing it. And it definitely the first time that you feel it, it's going to feel strange.
So weird.
Yeah, but so good at the same time.
So good.
So flash cupping uses that same process, but instead of putting oil down, it's just you're leaving the skin dry. Mm-hmm. And you just put the cup down, creates the vacuum, and you quickly remove it and then set it back down on a different spot, continuing to create that suction effect, but not leaving the cup there as long. Mm-hmm. The idea is to free up any stagnation that's in the area. I use this a lot for like chest colds, or if somebody has a cold or a flu, mm-hmm. As a way of releasing anything that might be stuck in the chest or back in the lung area of the body and helping to have it leave the body.
Yeah, it's definitely awesome. I like it for chest colds. Also asthma. I really find that it can be really effective, and even for allergies, that there's been some studies that have shown that cupping and Gua Sha can actually decrease that kind of the toxic load that the body's carrying with either viruses, like viral load will go down, or just the level of I don't even know how it's measured, but that can decrease the effects that environmental stressors are having on a person's system.
Wow.
So it can really help them to breathe better and to, that kind of thing. But most of the time I'm using cupping for neck and shoulder pain and back pain.
Mm-hmm.
I love it for that stuff because it's kind of like, as I said, like a deep massage in reverse. And there's just not a lot of things that can sort of fluff up the tissue or create space in, those tight spots that feel like they're turning into stone in your neck and shoulders, that those places that what's happened is that there's been such a chronic lack of free flow of energy that those areas aren't getting the nutrition, the cellular moisture, the detoxification on a cellular level or on a muscular level that they need. And so it's kind of like dredging that area out and creating an influx of new, fresh chi and blood that can feel remarkably freeing.
So what instances would you choose cupping over acupuncture?
Well, typically I would do cupping first and then acupuncture. And I would do it when specifically like the cases that feel like they really need cupping to me are when I'm touching somebody's back and it's just cables from their shoulders all the way down to their butt. And it's the kind of thing where I could either use 20 acupuncture needles and, talk to all those tight areas, or I think about it, if the acupuncture channels that energy runs in, if those are like the river and something's been tight for such a long time, it's like not only is there a backup of water in the river, but the water's like overflowed the banks of the river and is clogging up all the marshlands. And so if all the surrounding tissue of the entire back feels tight or armored or just ropey, it's like I can save myself a lot of time and I can save the person from having so many needles when we just start with 5 or 10 minutes of dredging the channels with cupping. And I always tell people it shouldn't feel like torture. It should feel kind of like the hurt so good range where you can tell like it's doing something, but it's also tolerable. And so if it gets to be too much, we can back it off and it's not a big deal. But usually if we do 5 or 10 minutes of that, then I can touch their back again, and it's a lot more clear where the problem is really stemming from. And so kind of like the background noise goes away, and it's a lot easier for me to figure out where the best places are to needle to get the biggest result for the patient.
Oh, that's an excellent way of describing it and an excellent process. I'm sure your patients really enjoy that treatment.
I have people, especially it seems a lot of people with fibromyalgia really enjoy cupping and really find that it can even be preventative of getting that very specific kind of burny pain that they're familiar with, keeping that from recurring. I have a lot of patients who swear that cupping is the thing that keeps them from having their chronic headaches or chronic neck pain when we cup the base of the shoulders. And people often either really love cupping or really don't love cupping. So it's like, I'm totally cool with people being in either camp. I personally am in the loving cupping camp. Thanks for listening today. For more episodes of A Healthy Curiosity, you can visit the iTunes store. If you appreciated today's show, please leave us a review. This helps other people to find the podcast. You could also head to brodywelch.com, where you can find free self-care resources, learn more about Chinese medicine, and let me know what you'd like to hear about on future episodes. I'd love to hear from you. Till next time, be good to yourself.